Welcome everybody to Mystic Mondays, and today we're going to be talking about crows, curses, Bill Skarsgård. It's a all great packed episode with a special guest. I'm going to hand it over to Brittney. Brittney, can you talk a little bit about yourself? You've been on already, but I just, if you,
Hi everyone, Stephanie is my best friend, and I'm on her podcast today, and I'm super excited. We're talking about The Crow, which we are very excited. It comes out this month, August. We're ready. Our looks today are inspired by Brandon Lee and Bill Skarsgård. I'm trying to do the Bill Skarsgård. I'm still struggling with the tears, so it's just kind of, I was telling Steph earlier. And Steph is the Brandon Lee version, but we're like, it's inspired, guys, so don't come for us. Like, it's inspired.
right. I feel like I could have had way more black. It's just, yeah. It's okay.
I gotta add the tears, so because I'm practicing. I don't know why it's been taking me a while, but I don't know. I did it actually really well a couple weeks ago, but it wasn't good enough to post about it. Still working.
Okay. Yeah, it's a work but by the time, the movie comes out, it'll be perfected, is what you're saying.
Exactly.
So
Exactly. Yep.
cool. So have you ever seen the movie The Crow? What do you think of the franchise?
I think this is an iconic movie. I know there's a lot of controversial things happening surrounding. I know Bill Skarsgård has been getting a lot of hate towards it. He actually did a really good interview to address the hate about a month ago or something.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I'll have to send it to you actually. He was like really nervous about it because the same thing happened to him during It Chapter 2 or It and It Chapter 2, but then he obviously killed the role for Pennywise. I think he's going to kill the role for Eric Draven. I understand though, a lot of people think it's disrespectful, and I understand like the hardcore. Well, let me redo that. I understand the hardcore Crow fans when it comes to this franchise. So I understand both ways. I'm just most excited for Bill to play, but yeah.
No, no, thank you for bringing that up because I feel like this movie, The Crow in general, we're going to get into it, of course, but it is very much a beloved cult classic film. Also, there's tragedy behind it. And you're right, like when you pointed out when Bill Skarsgård was in it and that franchise and, reprising the role of Pennywise, I was like, wow, those are big shoes to fill. And he did a phenomenal job. So I think because of that, I kind of am excited. Well, I know I am excited to see how this movie and how they put everything together. Because I did get some quotes of the previous actors from the previous films. So we're going to get into that as well. So like to your point, it's like he did a great job reprising occult classics such as It, and people loved it. And he's a great actor too. On top of that, he's an amazing actor. So I think I'm just trying to keep the benefit of doubt, but I can understand the concern surrounding this film. But okay, so now we're gonna jump into the movie The Crow and the era. So we're gonna go back in our time machine into to the 90s. Crazy. So yeah, I think 1993, 1994-ish or something like that. However, so in the time of the 90s, and even, I mean, I was three. I think we were three or four. We were pretty young, so we did. So we were not really like into understanding the way films were being like promoted and what they were choosing to make. I feel like back then, though, to be fair, I feel like the 80s was an era of such nostalgic, unique content. Like we are obsessed with the 80s. We keep making movies from the 80s and early 90s. So I feel like that was a time of just amazing uniqueness. Let me rephrase that. It was a time of where just a lot of unique original stories were being made into the cinema or brought to the cinema, whereas now it's just like a bunch of superhero movies. Like that's all we see now. Yeah, it's a crazy time to think about that, right? So in the early 90s, there were comic book movies, but not like The Crow, right? You had Teenage Mutant Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Do you love that? Did you ever get into that franchise?
Yes, I love the Ninja Turtles. I love Donatello. He's my favorite, the purple.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
yes. I'm like, I don't think I had a favorite, but I do remember watching it with my cousins growing up.
Yeah.
Dick Tracy, I don't think I've ever seen Dick Tracy.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah, the Rocketeer, Batman Returns, The Mask, Batman Forever.
Oh, love The
Uh,
Mask.
The Mask
Love
is
The Mask.
great. I would actually like to
Yeah.
see that remade. Actually, I would want to see that. Like,
I wonder who would be good for Jim Carrey. Unless they brought
oh,
him back or something. Well, that's kind of weird though, I guess. But if someone were to fill in that role, like I don't know who could do it. And that's the thing too. So I understand like with The Crow, how people are just like, well, you know, is Bill Skarsgård going to do a good job? I get it. Girl, I already told you about Twisters.
oh yes,
And that was a huge movie in the 90s as well. And yeah. So I get it for like the
yes,
hardcore Crow fans because I'm a hardcore Twisters fan or Twister fan. So I understand the concern, but yeah, there's a lot
yeah.
of remakes. So
Yeah, and like, so like the movies that we're listing here, these are movies that like Tank Girl, The Phantom, Men in Black, Batman and Robin, Blade. I would say Blade, but that was in the later 90s. So up until 1993, 1994-ish, we really saw a lot of comic book films that were made into the cinematic world or the cinema. They were more of like black and white, right? Like good versus bad. We really didn't see any anti-heroes being brought into the cinema the way The Crow was being brought into the cinema, I would feel like. I mean,
yes.
Blade, I could see Blade being one of those films, but it was later into the 90s. That movie on my list here says 1998. And so, whereas now it's like we see all kinds of superhero movies, like Deadpool recently. Like I just saw Wolverine and Deadpool, and I love anti-hero. I'm more of an anti-hero person. I love seeing that story arc more than like this superhero, and I feel like that's overdone. I love seeing the complexity of an anti-hero, and I can see The Crow being successful because of that. It was the first of its kind to really show that. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I think so too. But I think there's gonna be a lot of backlash, unfortunately. It's already happening, girl. When I've mentioned The Crow a few times, like people are just in the comments, oh, it's gonna do so bad, or like, how can you support something like this? It's disrespectful towards Brandon Lee, and I totally get that, but it's just the backlash already. And the fact that they pushed back the movie, because remember it was originally supposed to come out in June. I don't know the reasoning behind that. I'm interested to know, but I don't
Yeah,
know
that is
why.
interesting.
So now it's August 23rd, I believe, or
The 25th, I think.
oh, it's the
Yeah.
25th. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
think
know.
so. I think. But they
Okay.
probably could change it too, so I don't know. Don't quote us, guys.
Yeah.
Don't. I'll put in the description. Um, okay, so segueing into that, right? Just explaining the 90s and the type of films that were being made. Paramount Pictures acquired, so this is my second note. Paramount Pictures acquired the rights to The Crow, and it was a comic book made by James O'Barr. And the story behind the comic books, and I remember watching the interview even like back in high school, back in like the early 2000s, and that was really tragic when he was talking about how he inspired a comic book series off the death of his fiance. What did you think when you found out about this? What did you think? Like, what were your initial thoughts about this? Because for me, I was like, "Whoa, that's heavy."
No, that I think that it is really heavy. I found out about that recently, so
I mean, I can't, for me, like, I mean, obviously, like, everyone mourns differently, right? And the idea that, like, I mean, I could not imagine losing a loved one, let alone my husband. I'm like, I don't know. I would probably a big mess because he is definitely the
I know.
skeleton of my
Well,
household.
well, exactly. No, that's really dark.
Yeah, and so basically it says here that the author, James O'Barr, created the comic book as a personal therapy after the death of his fiance, who was killed by a drunk driver.
Drunk drivers make me so mad. And just the fact that it's still a thing. Like it's 2024. There's freaking Uber,
I
you know,
know, I
doing
know.
whatever.
But my godmother was killed by a drunk driver, so like I take that very seriously. Um, I mean, everyone should, period. But
Yeah, no, it's just the fact that it still happens today. I don't know. People just, when they're drunk and they're driving, their excuse, oh, like I was okay, or whatever they say. Like, that's not. an excuse. And like with the Justin Timberlake thing,
Yep.
what did he say? This is gonna ruin the tour. What tour? World tour or whatever that was. Do you remember that?
I
People were
think
saying
so.
that on. Oh, apparently the cop that arrested him didn't know he was Justin Timberlake from NSYNC. And he said, like, Justin apparently said, this is going to ruin the tour because he's on a world tour right now. I think he's
Oh
still on
yeah.
it. And then the cop said, like, what tour? And he's like, the world tour. You didn't hear that?
Actually, I think I did. Yeah, I think I did. I did.
Yeah. And people were making, like, funny TikToks about it because it's like, who says that? Because the guy was so young, the cop, he didn't recognize him from NSYNC. So I was just like, what the hell? Anyways, I know, sorry. That's just what I thought of.
What the
What?
heck? What the heck?
I know. So,
Um,
so now, like, for any inconvenience in my life, I want to say, like, this is going to ruin the tour.
Getting back into the author and our thoughts on what he was going through.
It makes me so sick. So, with his fiance being killed by a drunk driver, like, you just, I think, I mean, I don't know. I've never been through that before, but I can only imagine you almost blame yourself. Like, you feel like, oh, if only I was with that person in that moment, if I went with them that night, like, so I can't even imagine.
That so obviously he was using this comic book series as a personal therapy, and basically this took about 10 years, 9 to 10 years, I think, to complete the comic book series.
Yeah, that's insane. I mean, but girl, we know things take forever,
That's true.
especially, yeah, we,
If when you are an artist, whether you are somebody that is like a painter in this case, like a comic book writer, because when you write a comic book, you are the artist. You're also doing the storyboarding, the writing of like the story and everything of that
yeah,
nature. And so I can tell that there is a perfection. I do remember from seeing the interview years and years back, he is a perfectionist from my understanding. Like, he put a lot of detail in his illustrations, and also just in general, I can imagine that because this was inspired by the tragedy of his fiance, he wanted to make it right. So
yeah.
anyway, so clearly he puts a lot of work into this, and this is going to be very important as we continue talking about The Crow and the movie and all the stuff that happens after the fact. So then it says here, let me just backtrack a little bit. So in the comic book, the characters are Shelley Webster and Eric Draven, and they are brutally attacked and murdered by a gang, mirroring the sense of loss and injustice that the author or comic book artist James O'Barr experienced in his own life. The supernatural elements, with Draven being resurrected by a crow to seek revenge, provided a way for O'Barr to channel his grief and anger into a creative outlet, ultimately leading to the creation of the now known graphic novel. So already there, like, it's interesting how he had to channel putting himself in to that piece of art. I don't know. That's kind of interesting already, but okay. So, all right, now we're going to get into the film. So now that people have an idea of like just the backstory and where we are in
Yeah.
this timeline.
Yes.
So in February 1st of 1993, this is where, let's see, hold on one second. Yeah, this is where they started to begin filming. Crazy. So
So that was
1993.
the first day on set
Yes.
when they put
Mm-hmm.
the okay. Damn.
Cursed Films on Shudder discusses the events that led people to believe The Crow was cursed. From the very beginning, filmmakers showed up on set to a voicemail message that said that bad things would happen if they made the movie, allegedly according to
Wow.
Screen Rant. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just imagine walking on set and they're
Yeah.
like, okay, imagine us going on Spirit Squad and they're like, voice message, this land is cursed. And then like all this bad stuff would happen. Like, I don't know.
But
Like that.
girl, if that happened on Spirit Squad, we'd be like, okay, and then we go in. Can you imagine? Oh my god. No, but seriously, yeah. If someone said that, I'd be like, what? But didn't that happen on the Conjuring set, or am I mixing
Maybe.
that up? I swear that happened with the Conjuring, like the first movie. They were warned about making this movie or something like that.
You remember Unsolved Mysteries?
Yes,
Um, the
that
the
show.
narrator and the production crew, they were threatened because they covered the case of this guy that was recording him starting things on fire. They didn't know who it was. And I guess they're like, if you continue covering this case, we'll come after you. It was the weirdest thing ever. I don't know. That stuff creeps me out.
No, that trips me out too. Like, especially, yeah, no, I'd be freaked out too. Holy crap! No, I didn't know.
They begin filming in North Carolina, and this is where a crane worker was severely electrocuted shortly thereafter.
He
And
lived though, didn't he?
I
Which
think
is
so, yes.
amazing. Okay, like amazing. Yeah,
Good for, yeah. Luckily,
yeah,
he survived, but still
yeah.
scary. And then an equipment truck caught on fire. So we're already seeing back to back.
I know. I have chills. No, that like girl, that's who's the man who ran into the building? He like went crazy and he drove into a building. That's what I remember.
Oh, let's see if I have it on here.
I
It
think
might
he
have
was
been
in
the,
war. Yeah, like who the heck does that? And apparently they let him go. I don't know. I mean, I would too. I'd be like, why did you drive into the building? And then the
yeah.
screwdriver, the screwdriver that went through one of the construction workers' hands.
It says on the first day of shooting, an electrician was backing a cherry picker truck up and hit the high tension wire on the power lines above him, and he was electrocuted and caught on fire. Everyone rushed him to the hospital, and he survived. So yes, you're right. He was the one that survived, but his ears had to be removed. Hmm.
Yeah.
So already, if this was you and you're filming for this movie and all this stuff is happening, what would you do? Would you stay?
Okay, because I'm kind of like crazy, right? So, I mean, is it like the year 2024 when we're okay? Because if it was like in the 90s, then like, I couldn't like, because I'd be like, oh my God, this is content. Like, I'd be crazy. Oh my God, I gotta like film, vlog my experience if it's 2024. But if it was in the 90s, then I'd be like, what the heck? No, but seriously, that would be terrifying seeing that a man had to get his ears removed because he was electrocuted, seeing a man run into a building, like drive into a building, the screwdriver incident, the fire, all of that. No, I'd be like, what the heck? And then the warnings before they even film the movie. But then I think a part of me still wouldn't believe it. I'd be like, oh, come on. Like, but at the same time, like, you feel so bad seeing everybody on set who's involved. Now, also, my question is, did the guy who had his ears removed, did he come back to work on the crow, or was he was probably just done after that, right? Because it's like,
Probably.
yeah. Okay, I was gonna say, holy crap. Because props to him if he actually went
You just
through with
kind of came
that.
back? Oh
Yeah, if he
gosh.
came back. I don't know. I gotta look up his name or something, but
Yeah, gotta I wanna see, like, now I'm curious too. That's a good question and I know it's so long ago, but still you're right. I'm curious what happened after the fact. And what do they think? Do they think it's a curse? Do they think it's like a series of bad events? Like what is it? Um
what's kind of interesting though is say they do believe it's a curse and like there's nothing out there about them, there's no information of them discussing this. That is what's interesting. So is the curse real? Because why aren't they talking about it?
right. Yeah.
I don't know.
Like
Yeah,
what
you know
is
what I
going
mean?
on?
What's going on? Yeah. You gotta look up
Um
these people, their names, and find them on like Instagram if they have Instagram. I don't know.
Yeah, I
DM
mean,
them.
I wonder if I like can like contact the LA library or something and be like, "Hi, I want to find the newspaper clippings or
Yeah,
something."
no, exactly.
Yeah,
So
now it's gonna be with me for the rest of the day now because I'm like, huh. But I know for me, if I was on set and this was happening, I would be like, I'm done. I don't think
yeah,
this is too much. I don't
yeah.
know. I don't know. But of course, you guys, it gets worse because we've been already alluding to it. Um,
Uh-huh.
so the other thing that happened on top of people getting injured, in early March of 1993, so not even like 2 months into this, essentially, like still like a month, yeah, like a month in, almost 2 months. The production company was the production was disrupt. Sorry, the production was disrupted by the storm of the century, quote unquote.
It's not a sign. I don't know what it like the other guys who, all got injured and then the storm of the century coming in.
Yeah,
I
like
think I'd be gone at that point too.
it's just so many things. Like people, if the threat wasn't enough, if people getting hurt, now you have the natural catastrophic events happening. According to the actor, John Polito was saying that the hurricane was really bad, that they stayed at the hotel. Okay. So then, of course, this is within March. Now, this is now from what I said, February. We're into
Yeah.
the end of March now, March 31st. 2 months, I think. I want to give or take at this point. 2 complete months. March 31st in 1993, Brandon Lee was fatally shot on set due to a mishandled prop gun.
Uh,
There's just within 2 months all these bad things. Like it's like,
and
what
that's
is
just,
happening?
especially, like the star of the film, like that, I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
But what I will tell you is I saw the jacket in person.
Whoa.
It's believed to be the jacket that he was shot in. It's actually at Zach Bagans' Haunted Museum.
Oh, really? Oh
Yeah,
my
he
God.
has he has a dead celebrity section. Like that's what it's called, the dead celebrities. There's like a dress from Sharon Tate, but Brandon Lee's jacket, it's believed because there is a bullet hole in it, but
Oh.
it's believed that is the jacket. So my brother Jonathan, he's a huge Crow fan. So because he was with me that day when it was there, because I was there 5 days prior to seeing it as well, and I never saw the jacket. And then when I was with my brother, all of a sudden Brandon Lee's The Crow jacket is at his museum. I don't know if it's still there, but it's believed that was the jacket. So seeing it in person was really eerie.
Oh my
It is a
gosh.
bullet hole, like you see it in the jacket, and it goes right through it. Yeah. So that was very eerie to see in person. Yeah.
Oh my God. It's interesting because I have yet to go through the museum, but I saw a TikTok recently and I stitched it and I was giving advice for people. And I was going to ask you this actually now that you brought this up.
Yeah.
Did you feel any energy there? Like, did you feel drained when you were done with the tour?
No, I was just on cloud nine.
Oh,
I mean, girl, like I'm crazy. I mean, you feel the energy, obviously. You feel heavy in there. Like that. That's the feeling I usually get in haunted places. You just kind of feel like the pressure on you. So you
ooh, hmm.
feel pressure, especially the haunted doll Peggy when you go into her room. And there's a spirit box, a live spirit box that just goes the whole time. So you can talk to
Oh,
her. Yeah, I think you would really pick up on a lot in there, but there's just so much going on. I was just more excited,
to
but
see
I wasn't
everything.
affected after. Yeah, like I walked out really energized and crazy. But no, I've heard like really crazy stories. And when you're on the tour as well, they show videos of people passing out on the security footage, throwing up, like running out to vomit. So no, but some people are just extremely sensitive that way and they
Yes.
react differently. But no, it'd be so interesting. You and I need to go because I feel like you would pick up on so much. And it's been years since I've been, so much has changed, of course, too. It
Oh,
was
I'm
2019
sure.
when I went, so I hope they still have Brandon Lee's jacket. I'm not sure. I don't think I've heard anyone talk about that either.
Mm.
But no, it was there. I swear to you, because the tour guy was like, "This is believed to be Brandon Lee's jacket because he had multiple jackets on set, but why did this jacket have the bullet hole? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
It did.
That's
Yeah, I saw it.
Oh
Mm-hmm.
my gosh. I didn't know they had memorabilia like that. That's interesting. Yeah,
Sharon
no, I
Tate's
think
wedding dress is there too.
oh my gosh.
It's
Yeah.
eerie. Yep.
I'm not much, I'll be honest. I'm not much of a fan of like death and serial killer memorabilia. Like I I'd be interested to see the energy even in the entrance of the room because I feel like that and I'm very sensitive to that. So like I
Yeah.
remember when I went to North Carolina, they had this vault and it used to have serial killer memorabilia in it. And when he opened that vault, I like screamed dramatically. It was literally like one of those like old classic film Disney like the witch melting. I was like, ah! Brandon Lee, okay, so let's get into like the Brandon Lee and how this happened, right? Because to me, I'm always scared of prop guns. I am. Like I
Yeah.
think whether it's probably subconsciously from this incident or not, but this is what happened. Brandon Lee's character was shot by a character named Fun Boy, and in a terrible turn of events, his on-screen demise became real. A series of events led to Lee's ultimate end on March 31st, 1993. First, the weapons master of the film was sent away for the day. And oh, so they had like a weapon master on set and they were not there that day. And the prop master filled a .44 caliber gun used in in the scene with blanks without checking the barrel.
Mhm.
Many Hollywood insiders pointed their fingers at Michael Massey, I think is how you say his last name. But he was the actor who played Fun Boy, and he took several years off acting after this incident. John Polito discussed some of the more bizarre happenings that seemed to go on nonstop while shooting. He said, "The third night when we were shooting, I remember the prop truck." Okay, never mind. That was already repeated. Um, Now, in 2016, Michael Massey, the actor who played Fun Boy in The Crow, passed away. Allegedly, they say that he never got over the death of Brandon Lee. Um,
Can you imagine if he were alive today, especially with the movie coming out?
yeah.
You, he must have went into like the witness protection program after it happened because you're just always going to be attached to that. Like I can't even imagine, but going into,
Right.
Alec Baldwin, look at that.
I was
That
like, you're going to
happened.
bring that up too.
Yeah,
Sorry.
and it's just, and that's recent, and that is horrible what happened. But I just, you never get past that, even though, like, I don't know what that's like, but I can only imagine because it's an accident. You didn't mean to do that. And it's just with The Crow being so iconic, and it will always be iconic. Like, I can't even. No, that's just, it's terrible. So, yeah.
Well, it says here too that like Alec Baldwin, so he's still, I believe they recently did a court release or something like that recently. I don't know
Yeah.
the whole update, but
Same.
basically Alec Baldwin is facing criminal charges of involuntary manslaughter in the shooting of death of Rust, the cinematographer, Helena. I feel so bad.
I don't know how to say her name either.
Hutchins.
Yeah.
Hutchins in 2021. But he was told, so this would happen. He was told that the gun was safe, and there was people on set saying that it was fine. And so they were all baffled by the circumstances. But like, we go back to like how whether it's the whole unfortunate tragedy of Brandon Lee and even this, it's like I don't trust prop guns ever on set. Like
Oh,
just
no. You
no.
have to, and even, for the Alec Baldwin case too, wasn't it a girl who was in charge of the prop gun or whatever? And I mean, to be honest, I don't know the full details of everything that happened, but there needs to be more checks before, I don't know. That's just awful. I can't,
Or
I can't
even
even
like
imagine.
I'm not even like I mean I forgive me if anyone is a production person or even like special effects or special graphics or whatever. But like personally for me, it's like what? They're in a world where there's so much like CGI and all of that. It's just like do a fake gun that doesn't shoot and
Yeah.
use CGI to make the effects or something like that if you really
Oh,
need to.
exactly. Yeah.
Just because there's just what even two, one is a lot. One is already a lot, and two, that's too many in my opinion.
I
But
know. And it's just,
um,
that happened too. Everyone was talking about, oh, like, what happened with Brandon Lee. But it's the truth. Like, it's the same thing. And Brandon
mhm.
Lee, wasn't he 28 years old or 27?
Yes,
27 or 28? Like, he was
I think it's
young.
28.
28. Like,
Mhm.
it's just so sad.
It's very sad because like he wasn't even 30, and like so this
Then,
was, but I think this was a film that was like he was already becoming a rising like they believe that this would have been the film to really give him that momentum of like really cementing his place as an actor. Like I still think this film did, but it was like, it would have given him a lot more opportunities and all of that, the gravity of it. Because for people that don't know, I'm sure people do know, but just in case they don't, Brandon Lee is Bruce Lee's son.
fun. Yeah.
And yeah, and so he was already trying to make his mark on his own, and I think this would have really cemented that, which is so unfortunate with he was so young.
I know.
Um,
Yeah.
so getting into the other films after this. So in 1996, the sequel, The Crow City of Angels, was released, but poorly received. And I'm like, are we surprised? That's 3 years after.
I know. See, I've actually never seen the other reboots that they tried, but the fact that it was 3 years after, that's
Yeah.
horrible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like, Right. So that would be like us watching like the Heath Ledger Joker and like The Dark Knight. Like if they made a Joker film within 2 years, it would be poorly received. I don't know. It's just interesting how. So then in the late 90s and into the early 2000s, there were two more direct to video sequels, The Crow Salvation and The Crow Wicked Prayer. And they were both received with very negative reviews because we go back to like the time span.
Yeah.
Sony Pictures. So in early 2013, Sony Pictures began developing a reboot of The Crow, but I think that was pushed back, obviously, because it's been now 10 years. Now, in 2014 and 2017, according to this, it says that Luke Evans, Ryan Gosling, Bradley Cooper were briefly attached to the project, but soon they pushed it aside. Yeah, apparently. Apparently. In November 2017, Jason Momoa was thought to play, yeah, from with Corden, the reboot with Corden Hardy as a director. But then in 2018, both Momoa and Hardy left the project due to creative and budget differences. So now we're seeing that that this film has been put on hold for such a long time after being poorly received. But I also think that like the tragedy of what happened in the original film and then proceeding after the fact, it just wasn't handled with care, in my opinion. Like making a reboot within 2 years and keep trying to push it, it's not going to do very well.
So
Um,
sorry.
no, go on, go on, go on.
It's just with the new version coming out, I don't know what to expect. I just think there's so much hatred around it right now. So I don't know. I'm scared to be honest. I'm excited. I'm just excited for Bill because I'm such a Bill fan. So, and I know he's gonna do well. I know there's gonna be people who think he's gonna kill it and he's gonna be amazing, but it's just the haters. It's not gonna be received well. It's a real good tribute. I think what a lot of people think is Bill shouldn't be Eric Draven
Mm,
because he's literally being Brandon Lee's character. I think
yeah,
maybe if he was somebody else and it's like a sequel or you know what I mean, then maybe that could help. But I think that's the thing. They're just like nobody can be Eric Draven because that's who Bill is. He's Eric. So I get
yeah.
that. I get it. Yes.
Yeah,
But
because like I went on Reddit to see what people
mhm.
were saying just to kind of get an idea like what they were saying. So this is what one of the Reddit users said, and I'm just gonna let me open up this link real quick because I just want to make sure that I have his username on here. Um I think Shadpool said this on Reddit. Um, but this is what I summarized it to. So they were saying that there's various adaptations of The Crow, and they've been criticized for being quick cash grabs, which I agree. It's like 2, 3 years after you're making like the sequel after
Yeah.
Brandon Lee's death, like that just doesn't rub people the right way. The first film had a strong performance, and obviously Brandon Lee's tragic death. But then they had one of the films, Stairway to Heaven, is what they quoted, attempted to continue the story with Mia Kirshner as Sarah, but Vincent Perez's performance was not very good. The series Stairway to Heaven was a bland attempt to combine The Crow with the popularity of the Walker Texas Ranger, resulting in a repetitive and ridiculous plot. And then Salvation, um, the performances were really bad, and the writing was really poor. Yeah, they were talking about how just the whole film was poorly written and poorly executed. And then Wicked Prayer, um, it was they said they had David Boreanaz in a memorable but over the top role. The film was forgettable and culturally insensitive, particularly towards Native Americans. So now they're pointing out poor performances, racial undertones. Um, they're also saying that the protagonist became increasingly absurd, moving away from more interesting names found in the comics. So, what they're complaining about is that they could expand into the franchise or the universe of The Crow rather than continuously trying to make the
Reboots.
original. Hmm.
Yeah, try to because you just with any original out there, you can't compete. no
Yeah.
matter what movie that is, because it's the original for a reason. So I think if
Ye-
Bill wasn't Eric Draven, I think it might be received better.
mm-hmm.
And he just is somebody else. But yeah. And his look
Yeah.
is completely different as well from Brandon Lee's version of the Crow. So I don't know. I'm nervous, girl.
Yeah. Well, it's kind
I'm
of like
nervous.
the best parallel I can think of is like the Joker from The Dark Knight, and then
All
also
right.
like Joaquin Phoenix playing the Joker in its own standalone film. And I
Yeah.
think I actually did enjoy the Joker. I know some people didn't like it. I actually enjoyed it a lot because it had some undertones with like mental health and a different depiction of the Joker. I'm actually excited to see the the
The new
second
one
film. Yeah.
with Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn. Honestly, I think she's gonna do really well as Harley Quinn. I
Yeah.
think Margot Robbie, I love her. I think she's incredible and she's amazing as Harley Quinn. But I just think Lady Gaga is gonna have that darkness come out, which
Yeah.
is what I love about Harley. Like, I think she's going to slay that. So yeah,
Yeah. So I don't know. I just
get
think that
over it.
like it's possible to do a remake, so as long as it's its own thing, and I think that's my concern with this crow, with the crow coming up, because I feel like yeah, in a way I do think that it's good that they gave him his own look, like Bill's has his own look for Eric Draven,
Yes.
but to your point,
Yeah.
replaying that character, we'll
Eric.
see. There's been enough time though. I think there has been enough time that maybe people can maybe like be somewhat open-minded, but also, you know.
Yeah, I
Um,
think that's the main thing. I'll have to send you that interview that I saw, but he was addressing it. People, you know, coming for him, trying to be Eric Draven, and no, he gave a really good response because he got the same backlash with Pennywise, right?
yeah.
Because people were like, "Oh, he's not going to do well," and obviously there were people who didn't like the new it, but I
Yeah,
love Bill.
well, the actor, I believe, there are a few actors from the previous from the original that they were just saying that there's no replacing Brandon Lee, and I think that like,
Yeah,
and I can sympathize with that, right? The idea that you worked with somebody on set and they passed away, and obviously you wouldn't want to see anybody take that role. Um, but also I can see where like a new generation would want to see something more up to date. But let's talk about some of the symbology of the crow. The other thing that I wanted to point out about the film, and before we get into conclusion, whether we think it's cursed, whether we think it's not cursed, I forgot to put this in my notes. But the crow, the actual crow itself, the animal of the crow. Do you know
yeah.
anything about symbolisms of crows and what they can mean or be interpreted as?
I've heard that I love crows, first of all. I actually get excited when I see crows because it reminds me of Jeepers Creepers when I see
Oh,
crows. Love
yeah.
Jeepers. Um, but I've heard there's bad omens surrounding it. I'm not sure what it is. It's almost like a black cat when you see a black cat
Oh,
across the street or something. So I don't even know is it does it just mean bad luck or death or something? Because anytime I see a crow, I honestly get excited. I'm like, oh, that's a sign from the universe. I don't know. But no,
yeah.
I know what you mean because some people are like, oh my God, a crow is a bad sign for something. But not in my experience. Maybe, I can see how it is. But I love
Right.
crows. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because I feel like you're right. There's so many different meanings, and I think that was something that I really stuck out to me when I watched the film this time around in most recent times. So the crow, like this is what the notes I have. The crow itself, the crow is a central symbol in the film of the crow, and is associated with death and the afterlife. And in various cultures and mythologies, and they're really smart animals too. They are seen as
Yeah.
messengers between the living and the dead.
Yeah.
Um, which makes sense why the film would probably be called The Crow.
The crow. Yeah.
Now,
I mean, it's
you're
because
right,
they're dark too, and they're kind of, they can be
surrounded by
creepy because
death.
some people are scared of crows, right? So when I think of crows as well, I do think of, Halloween and Halloween season too. So they're kind of associated with scary.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
you tend to see a lot of crows surrounded in like spooky lore, like Edgar Allan
Yeah.
Poe. I think I don't even know where
Yeah.
my poster up
Oh,
Edgar
yeah.
Allan Poe.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah.
So they're I know Edgar Allan Poe wrote about the crow, or the raven, sorry,
Yeah.
and but I know crows and ravens are different. But regardless, like anything adjacent to that is always seen as like a thing with death and the afterlife. So
Yeah.
then the resurrection in the film with Eric Draven is very much an element to that, or some people believe it is. Um, and then also the symbol of the crow is a recurring motif, including there's even like tattoos on Eric's body. Apparently, did he have a crow tattooed on him?
I don't look at Crow. He has a lot of tattoos though.
Furthering the symbology of this, so they think that like Eric Draven's character coming back to life is representing the spiritual protection and guidance of the crow, since it's like playing the messenger in this take. So I can see that. I can definitely understand that the crow has some type of like thematic things of
Yeah.
symbology to it. So when I do a quick search on the crow, crows are seen as a symbol of transformation, change, intuition. They are
Yeah.
believed to communicate with the spiritual world. As I was saying, Native American crows are considered sacred and spiritual guides. They also represent intelligence and wisdom, which is true. The crows are incredibly smart.
Yeah.
So, there's that thematic element to it. The afterlife, what it means, like the channeling of an animal and how it can be and the way that's how I perceive the film. Like it's protecting and guiding him avenge his loved one.
Yeah. I think the crow is actually one of my favorite birds. Now that I think about it, because every time I see it, I'm just no girl. There's like a crow that I hear almost every morning outside my bedroom,
Really?
and I love it. Like, or I can't even do this. It's funny too because actually, in my videos, if I drop like an F bomb instead of a bleep, I put a crow.
Oh, really?
Like a crow
What?
sound. I do that for years, so it's kind of yeah, that's kind of weird. It's weird synchronicity here.
That is
And
very
that's what it means.
interesting.
It's a crow sound. It goes or whatever.
So now that we talked about all of these things regarding the film, the tragedy, what we think is
Yeah.
going to happen, and just like the movies after the fact, do you think that any like the how do I word this? Do you think like the book, knowing about the comic book and the creator in the comic book, do you think that there was maybe a residual imprint to that? I don't know. What do you think?
I think so. I can see that. Yeah.
Right? Like we're not saying that like the book or had anything to do the writer had anything to do with a curse or anything like that. But
No,
it's interesting, right? Because
it is.
I've had people talk to me about how like they have haunted paintings or like the imprint, right? Like putting so much passion into a piece you can feel the energy. Like I'm actually very curious with the original illustrations, like the energy from that. I don't know, I'm just curious. But
Well,
I don't know
I
what it.
mean, yeah. I mean, just all the bad energy that happened on set. Like, I just. Do you want to know my question? Did anything happen on the new Crow set
Oh.
with Bill Skarsgård? I wonder. Did
Well, we
anything
probably won't
happen
know
on the
until
other
after the
sets
fact.
for like the reboots and everything, like the other ones that came out, a few years after Brandon Lee's death? I wonder, was there anything weird? Did Bill feel like was anyone nervous about going in to the new Crow that's coming out? Like, you know what I mean? I
Yeah,
wonder if
that's a good question.
I wonder if he. I mean, obviously, I feel everyone knows about everything that happened on the set, especially Brandon Lee, like Brandon Lee's death. But I wonder if he was nervous going into this because of all the stuff that did happen to other people. Like, I wonder if anything happened at all. But yeah, I guess we will find out because it's 2024. Like social media.
That's a good question because on one hand, I'm willing to think and just energetically, right? Energetically. And because this podcast is more than just like talking about pop culture, I mean, I've said it on here, I'm a psychic medium. I will
Yeah,
plug it in once in a while, like what I think on a spiritual level. But I do think that when you put so much work into something, especially in the case of like talking about avenging his wife and like wanting justice for his wife, I can't imagine like the art piece having. I'm really curious. Maybe I should write him like, can I hold on?
I
But
know, right?
but I'm also willing to think too, like if I'm being on the logical skeptical side too, before like I'm willing to like question what were the safety precautions? Did they like whoever was overlooking the production set, like how much like who was in charge of those things? Because I know every production set they have people that are in charge of checking things, quality, and all this stuff to make sure that they're hitting certain policies so they don't get kicked out or fined or whatever. So
Yeah.
I'm just curious out of that before I'm willing to call it a curse. Like, yeah, I can see why people call it the curse of the crow, but I
Yeah.
also think on the logical, skeptical side of things of like, yeah, the skeptical side of things, who was overlooking the set? And I also think if they did receive a voice message, that
Right.
probably cemented their own manifestation of
Yeah.
tragedy. Maybe, I don't know,
Yeah.
but very eerie
It
sequence of
is. I
events.
have chills. No, I
So what
know.
do you think? Do you think it's a curse? Do you think it's could be just weird coincidence? Like, what do you think?
I think it's the original. I think that's more than a coincidence. Do I think it's a curse? I don't know, but I lean that way. Yes. So I guess I
Hmm.
do actually. Because, like, girl, that is way too much bad stuff to happen in a short span of time. So, yes, I do believe. Yes, I do.
You know, I feel like a lot of horror films, more often than we know, at least is my theory, they probably do have people come in and bless the set. Like, I'm not even joking. They did it for the Conjuring franchise. So, I don't know.
Yeah, there was stuff that happened on that set. And who was it? What's her name? I forget. Her name's Joey?
Joey King.
Joey King. Oh my God. Okay. At least I got the first name. Didn't she have a bunch of stuff happen to her after working on The Conjuring?
Yes.
See?
Yes.
And that was The Conjuring 2 she was in? Or was it? I don't remember.
It was the first one, and
Oh,
she
it was
developed
the
like
first one.
a blood disease. Yeah, like some weird, rare blood disease. And then as soon as they stopped filming that scene, she just got better.
Yeah, see?
Hmm.
That's weird.
And so I
Yeah.
always think too, like, you know, my psychic brain kicking in, my energetic spiritual side kicking in. I always think that when you are acting, and we talked about this in the Pennywise episode that we did on this podcast. I'll plug
Yeah.
it in if you guys want to listen to that. More me, Brittany talk about movie.
It's still
But
graveyard.
yeah, but we talked about that where like when you start to act out things, it's like manifestation, right? Like the like for like thing, right? Bringing to life this reality. I do think you can manifest some stuff, and that's why like I always think if I was an actress, like I'd be kind of scared of doing like horror films or being like a scream queen. A
Yeah.
scream queen actress because like you can manifest some pretty dark stuff.
Especially if you're a method actor
Mm-hmm.
and taking on those like really dark demonic roles and you literally have to act as if be
Yeah.
in that mindset and that can also bring on the manifestations as well.
Mm-hmm.
So much. I mean, hey, it goes with the episode. It's interesting though that it happens so many times on film sets though. But with the Conjuring and stuff, that's paranormal, so it kind of makes more sense.
Right.
But then like going back to the crow, but also the crow has so much symbolism with the death and everything like that. But it almost seems kind of not necessarily random, but it's just compared to like, well, the Conjuring side because it's paranormal and like demons and you're expecting stuff like that to happen. Whereas like, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm trying to say with that? So
Oh yeah, like
it's interesting.
paranormal, like with the Conjuring, like that. You're right. It was paranormal, so like they can easily think, okay, well, it's easily you can easily redirect it to like the foundation where like it's maybe a haunted place, or maybe they might
Yeah.
have haunted relics there or something. Who knows? I don't know how that works. Maybe I have to hit up Kaylin. I don't know. um,
Yeah.
But there's that. But then there's also the idea, like Pennywise, where like Bill said in an interview, he does not believe in the paranormal. He's really not into that stuff. But then he had like
Makes
a
me so
dream.
sad. It makes
Yeah.
me so sad.
But he said he saw clown shoes outside of one of the apartment buildings, and that was eerie.
Yeah.
So, but I believe that you can, if you're a method actor, you can manifest some
Well, look at
interesting.
Jamie Kenneth Bauer with because I know we touched on that with the Pennywise podcast when he was Vecna. He went full on method mode. Like he had really dark music playing. He locked himself in a room in the dark. No, he got really into Vecna, but also it can get really depressing too. I can't even imagine, like, but also at the same time, it's like, this is my role of a lifetime. Holy crap. But the fact that you got to put yourself through so much, and you got to make sure that you are mentally prepared for something like that to take on a role.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why I think that, like, and I know not everybody believes in this stuff, and that's okay, but
Oh, yeah.
sometimes I'm like, if there's like actors or actresses that are who do believe in the supernatural, definitely make sure you're doing your like cleansing rituals and all of that, because you never know what you could manifest. And it just does a lot with your mental health, and it lowers yourself to these frequencies. Anyway.
It does. Yeah. No, especially, playing roles like that. Like, you have to kind of almost be at a low frequency.
Right, you have to like
Yeah.
lower yourself, and it opens you up, and that's why I'm like, oh my God, I
It
feel
does.
for these people
Yeah. But they don't look at
opening
it like
themselves.
that. Like Bill, because he doesn't believe in the paranormal, but maybe that helps him in a way, because it's just like, oh, that's ridiculous. So maybe he
Yeah.
kind of is shuts himself out from it so he doesn't notice, but maybe we could turn him around.
So now that we wrapped up all of this, I just want to say, I just want to ask you, do you have anything coming up in the future, or anything you're excited to share with people?
I'm excited. I'm going to a few events in August. The Crow, hopefully. I hope that maybe this podcast will manifest that. I'm going to Fan Expo in Toronto at the end of August, so that will be fun. And I'm really excited for Halloween season. Like, I'm actually really into the Halloween season right now. Like, I love summer, but I'm ready for Halloween, so I'm excited for that. And I got like
Yes.
collaborations in the works as well, so I'm excited and doing more ghost hunts. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's what's
and
new with
you,
me.
oh, I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm so sorry. Um,
I didn't,
you
but that's just
did,
new. Oh,
okay,
sorry.
sorry. But you did also collaboration with Amy,
Yes,
Amy and Jared. So
for
if you haven't seen that, please check it out. You did a game, in a haunted Airbnb.
we made the Airbnb haunted. It wasn't
Oh,
haunted before. We did an investigation at a haunted jail that was like down the street from the Airbnb, and we stayed at this Airbnb for 3 nights. The last night for my channel, we played a paranormal game, and that's when a spirit came through, and we didn't feel anything in this house before, so we believe it was someone from the jail. But for the investigation, that will be on Amy's channel. It's Amy's Crypt, by the way, everybody
Amy's.
who's listening. But that will be exclusively on their channel, and that won't be coming out for a couple of months. But it was really good. We got amazing responses. This is actually the shirt that I got, which is weird that we're
Oh,
talking about this. I wore this in their video. This is the ghost that's at the jail that people see, the lady in black. Isn't
wow.
that
Okay,
weird? I thought it was giving like crow vibes. That's why I wore it. But now, like, that we're talking, no, I bought this from the gift store there.
that's amazing. Okay, we'll have to plug it in.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, no, thank you for that. Where can people, I mean, I know people know where to find you, but I will ask just in case. Where can people find you?
So my YouTube channel is youtube.com/Brittney Crabb, or you can type in my OG name, which is Brittney44, BRITTYY44. I'm on Instagram at Brittney Crabb 44. I'm now on Facebook again, which is Brittney44. I'm not going to change my name on there. And that's it.
Yay, awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on. So remember, everybody,
Stay
stay straight strange.
strange.
Woo!